All right, as you can see by the thumbnail of this video, just an absolute wild time right now. A wild, wild time. The capture of President Nicolás Maduro of Venezuela by the United States of America. They go in, capture him, bring him back to New York City. I'm going to discuss that a little bit in this video, the response from uh, Prime Minister Mark Carney and what that means for Canada. Um, does this shift anything with Alberta independence? There's a few things that we have to talk about in this video. But first of all, instead of just taking you directly to news sources, I want you to hear from people who are Venezuelan. I think that sets a better tone for what I'm going to discuss. And I think that makes it a bit more even in the playing field because sometimes news outlets have agendas. I think we all know that. So hearing it directly from the people might give you a little bit more perspective. And I have a few different videos to play. I have a lot of information written down and things that I will read to you as well for those who aren't really up to scale with everything that is going on. But you know what? Let's start it. Let's start it right here. And I do want to mention that the first video that I am going to play is not for kids. So if you have any children around, this is not for them. Anything after this is okay. But as of right now, this first video that I'm going to play that's coming off of TikTok, by the way, and I'll leave a link to this woman's TikTok in the description. But after this, it's okay. But any kids, take them out of here right now while this is playing.
Oh, this is your local Venezuelan girl on your For You page. This morning I woke up and I was like, no fucking way. I thought that it was fake news because with all of the AI situation that it's happening, you never know what the fuck is real and what's not. Let me be completely honest with you, the demoralization and the fracture in the spirit of Venezuelan people has been such that I really wasn't expecting whatsoever to see that motherfucker go down. Nonetheless, it is not enough for me that they took him and his wife. It wouldn't be enough if he spent the rest of his life in jail, being rotten, being beaten, tortured. It wouldn't be enough because of the damage that he has caused, the whole regime has caused in millions of people. I'm talking generations. They've taken everything. The one thing that we keep having is our identity or nationalism, saying we come from this beautiful country that has the name of a woman, Venezuela. And I'm displaced in a different part of the world because of what's taking place in my country. And you know, it is a big conflict. People are like, there is war, what's gonna happen? Trump sucks, this is incorrect. Look, I don't give a fuck about what's going to happen right now. All I care about is that today we see a glimpse of hope. And for many years, even when we won the last elections and they decided not to honor democracy and the fucking dictatorship continue in place and they decided to not do a peaceful transfer of power, even when we demonstrated that we have won, they took that from us. So it had to be taken by force. These people had to get dragged out of their fucking beds in the middle of the night. But so be it. So be it, because you have no idea the amount of immigrants that have gone through significant amount of trauma and difficulties in different parts of the world because they had to run away from the place that birthed them because of these motherfuckers. So right now, more than the aspect of politics, I want to express the words of a Venezuelan woman that grew up in a country that she had to leave and move to another one and be here right now thinking, I wish I could celebrate with my people in my country. I wish this felt like I finally took my bra off after a long day of work, but it's not like that. This is just the beginning. And it's taken over 25 years, but this is just the beginning. And the fact that I get to see it with my two eyes makes me feel thankful that I'm still here. Because all of the Venezuelan people that left their countries have made it this far, and we all deserve to rejoice on the thing that took place. No, I think they all need to be killed. I think they all need to be taken. They all need justice. Literally like the Nazis. Literally like the Nazis. I don't give a fuck. But nothing that happens to those people will be able to bring back the tears, the pain, the hardships that the whole country had to go through. And so it's weird. I'm celebrating with anger and tears and happiness and a sense of, like, I don't even believe this is real. Like, I'm somehow waiting for the other thing to drop and for me to think, oh, they freed him or something. I don't even know what's gonna happen. But in this moment, all that matters is that me, as well as millions of people, feel like we can finally take a fucking deep breath. We got to see it.
I'm just going to stop the video there. There is one more that I do want to play for you, because in this video, these people are actually out of Canada. And so I want you to see that as well. So I'm going to share my screen with you here and play this one for you.
In the kitchen of Latin Dough restaurant in the West End of Toronto, its Venezuelan owners are celebrating.
We had a miracle, and today is a miracle. Enjoy.
The grateful President Nicolás Maduro was captured and removed from the country.
Today, what actually happened was just finally we are free from this tyrant.
The couple moved from Venezuela to Canada nearly a decade ago, among millions who fled their home.
We are grateful that we were able to come to Canada, but obviously it takes a toll on you when your family, you don't see your parents for 8 years.
Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand wrote in a statement, since 2019, she said, we have refused to recognize any legitimacy of the Maduro regime and opposed its repression of the Venezuelan people, adding, Canada calls on all parties to respect international law. Opposition leader Pierre Poilievre, whose wife was born in Venezuela, praised the U.S. for its military move on Venezuela, writing, congratulations to President Trump on successfully arresting narco-terrorist and socialist dictator Nicolás Maduro, who should live out his days in prison.
This is not a government. It's a bunch of crooked, corrupt narco people.
So we say no.
Not everyone here agrees with the means used to remove Maduro. Outside the U.S. consulate in Toronto, vocal opposition.
What you are viewing is full-scale use of military to steal the resources on other countries. And they're going to come for Canada. They're going to come for our water. They're going to come for our oil. They're going to come for our potash.
There was no consultation in particular about this decision.
Canada's former ambassador to the United Nations is Bob Rae.
The notion that America has the right to do whatever it wants in the region without anybody saying anything about it is, to put it mildly, problematic and difficult.
But Ana Mendes has hope for the future of Venezuela now.
One of the most beautiful countries in the world, the beaches, the people, the women, the everything, the food.
Getting rid of Maduro is a good thing for a lot of people.
But among those who support Maduro's forced removal here, still a lot of questions about what it will mean for their families back home. Sean O'Shea, Global News, Toronto.
So interesting there, isn't it? Very interesting. You hear from people who are from Venezuela, and then you hear from people who are outside of Venezuela. And, it's a very small sample size, obviously. But it seems like there are people in Venezuela that are pretty happy about what happened here. And you're saying, all right, who is Nicolás Maduro? And so that's what we will talk about just a little bit right here, right now. Okay, so first of all, so I went into Grok and I went into Google, and I was like, yo, what is going on with Venezuela? I mean, I knew there were some things happening, but I didn't know it was that bad. So number one, fraudulent 2018 presidential election. And I did mention to you that I have some things written down, and I have one more video to show you, but that's going to come in just a little bit. So fraudulent 2018 presidential election. Maduro's reelection in May 2018 was boycotted by major opposition parties who were barred from participating and widely condemned as rigged due to voter intimidation, lack of independent oversight and manipulation. The OAS, which is the Organization of American States, and Lima Group declared it illegitimate, leading to non-recognition of his second term starting in 2019. In the usurpation of power and constitutional violations. In 2019, Venezuela's opposition-controlled National Assembly invoked the Constitution to declare Maduro a usurper for abandoning his duties through undemocratic actions, including dissolving the legislature's powers and creating a parallel constituent assembly. Number 3, 2024 election fraud and lack of transparency. In the July 2024 presidential election, the government-controlled National Electoral Council declared Maduro the winner without releasing detailed vote tallies or evidence. Opposition tallies showed Edmundo Gonzalez as the clear victor by a landslide. The U.S., European Union, and other refused to recognize the results, citing irrefutable evidence and fraud. Number 4, suppression of opposition and human rights abuses. Maduro's regime has jailed or exiled opponents, persecuted political leaders, and used security forces to repress protests, resulting in accusations of crimes against humanity. This authoritarian consolidation of power undermined any democratic mandate. And last but not the least, lack of international recognition and institutional rejection. The OAS that I mentioned, Organization of American States, has repeatedly passed resolution not recognizing Maduro's terms, and the UN has expressed concerns over elections and human rights, while allies like Russia, and pay attention to this, because we're going to speak about this in just a little bit more. While allies like Russia, China, Cuba, and Iran recognize him, the majority of democratic nations view his rule as de facto rather than legitimate, framing him as heading a criminal regime involving narco-trafficking. Narco-trafficking. And so we just went through a bunch of things that I read down the list. Now, the question that I have is, why did the U.S. want to go after him? Aside from these things that I just read from you, what specifically does the Trump administration want to go after him for? Now, we all know about oil. And okay, you know what? I'll get to that in a bit. But I want to start here because I wanted to know some of the main reasons why President Donald Trump and his administration would want to target Nicolás Maduro. First off, go on my papers here because we got to look at some notes. There's a lot of information. Narco-terrorism and drug trafficking in the U.S. The Trump administration repeatedly accused Maduro of leading a narco-terrorist cartel and facilitating the flow of cocaine and gangs into the U.S. Migration and border security. President Donald Trump blamed Maduro for the exodus of millions of Venezuelans, claiming that the regime deliberately sent criminals and gang members to the U.S. border. That is another one. And remember, this was portraying Maduro's government as a source of instability, flooding the U.S. with migrants and threats. So the administration was claiming that he was doing this deliberately. Opposition to socialism and regime illegitimacy. Trump viewed Maduro's socialist government as part of an axis of socialism in the hemisphere, allied with adversaries like Cuba, Iran, Russia, and China. We will come back to that because that is an important key here. The U.S. refused to recognize Maduro's election as legitimate, imposing sanctions for human rights abuses, corruption, and undemocratic actions. Also, last thing that I want to mention here, geopolitical influence in the Western Hemisphere, asserting U.S. dominance in the region. Targeting Maduro sent warnings to allies like China and others while aiming to reduce their influence and secure favorable conditions for U.S. interests. So there is a lot going on as to why, like I just mentioned to you, why the Trump administration went after Maduro and brought him back to the United States. Now, one of the big things, and the biggest thing, is oil. I said one of the biggest things is oil. We know that oil is a big thing, the biggest commodity probably in the world at this point. And so people have a lot of questions as to oil, right? Like a lot of people, or some of the people who are watching this, may be knowledgeable about oil, but don't really understand why it is so important. And so once again, I did some searches that I'm going to read for you. If you wonder why this thing called crude oil is so vital, so important to the world, and why countries definitely need to look at where they're getting their oil from, how they can pump the oil out of the ground if they have any in their country. And so here are a few more reasons that I'm going to read for you before I get into this last video that I want to discuss with you. Now, primary source of energy. Crude oil accounts for about 30 to 35% of global primary energy consumptions. It powers transportation, gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, electricity generation in many regions, and industrial processes. Countries with sufficient domestic supply or alternatives remain heavily dependent on it for daily energy needs. Foundation of modern economy. Oil is critical input for manufacturing plastics, chemicals, fertilizers, pharmaceuticals, asphalt, and thousands of everyday products. A stable oil supply supports industrial output, agriculture, fertilizers and machinery, fuel, and overall GDP growth. Major source of government revenue. Pay attention to all these things, because as the story develops and you get more information on this in the news, in your podcast shows or whatever, just understand why this oil is so critical. I'm reading to you a couple more. Major source of government revenue. For oil exporting nations, for example, Saudi Arabia, Russia, Norway, Canada, Venezuela, crude oil sales generate a large portion of national income and foreign exchange, taxes, royalties, and state-owned oil company profits for fund budgets, infrastructure, and social programs. Geopolitical and strategic influence. Control over oil reserves and trade routes confers significant geopolitical power. Countries use oil as a diplomatic tool. OPEC production cuts sanctions on exports and maintain strategic petroleum reserves for national security during supply disruptions or conflicts. Now, national security is one of the big things that the U.S. is going to mention when it comes to negotiating with Canada, when it comes to that oil. And I'm going to get to you about that in just a second. But that's one of the big things, national security as well. Like I mentioned, the U.S. doesn't want Russia, China, anybody that they look at as an adversary or a rival coming over to this hemisphere and getting oil. They don't want that. They want the oil, damn it, for themselves. They want it so that they can strengthen them, not the opposition across the world. Driver of trade balances and currency strength. Oil is priced and traded globally in US dollars, making it the world's largest commodity market. Net exporters earn substantial foreign currency reserves, strengthening their currencies and enabling imports, while net importers face trade deficits and vulnerability to price volatility. Put it this way. If you have oil you are in a position of strength if you are using it correctly, selling it correctly to the right countries. You have oil that what is the best way to put it? It gives you leverage. It gives you leverage. This is money. This is power, having oil. And these countries, they fight over this, man. You start wars. People die over this. And so this is not a game. There are things that are just going to begin because of something like this happening. And so I am going to play one more video for you, but I do want to talk about the response that you heard, the one that Pierre Poilievre gave already. But what about the Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney? What was his response to all of this? I will play that for you after this video, because I think it's important that we not just see it, like I mentioned in the beginning, not from just the aspect of the news in North America. What about the people who are actually from Venezuela? I think that matters more than anything than what we hear ourselves talking about. So I do want to play this one for you. Let's get rid of this, and I will share my screen with you once again. Okay, what do we got?
Let me go now to George Solis, who is live for us in South Florida. And George, I think we have you. I know it's a little bit loud where you are. We have spoken with Jesse Kirsch. We've spoken with you. I know that you're in the thick of it there, as you have Venezuelans gathering now, many of them celebrating the removal of Nicolás Maduro.
Yeah, exactly right, Hallie. We're in Doral, Florida, affectionately known as Dorazuela. This right here, the gathering center outside Arepaso. Crowds have been coming and going. This party showing no signs of slowing down. Every so often, the music will pick up. You'll hear horns honking, people in support, the flags of Venezuela flying here across the crowd. Moments ago, the crowd chanting in Spanish, the government is over, the government has fallen. That's, again, just a number of chants that we have been hearing about freedom, liberty. I have been to this area numerous times while we've been covering the story of Venezuela, Hallie, and so many people in this community say we have not felt comfortable to step out to speak, many of them not wanting to show their faces out of fear of concern for their families in Venezuela. Today, a much different story, as so many have gathered here in this community ready to share their excitement. They've told me they have spoken to their family members in Caracas, some of them saying right now, some of those family members are still getting word of what happened. Some of them saying they are still celebrating privately in their home. Many of them hoping to be able to get to gatherings on the streets like this, but that is just not the time for them. Many of them reacting, of course, to what they say is a regime that has been oppressive. Many of them waiting decades for a change, for freedom in Venezuela. And again, the party here not showing any signs of slowing down. This crowd has only been growing hour by hour. Some of them getting here as early as 3, 4 o'clock this morning as word started to trickle down here. And I've been checking around other businesses in this community. There are just small gatherings and celebrations as far as you can imagine. Again, Doral here, one of the largest populations of Venezuelans in the U.S. And of course, they are making their mark and their voices heard here today, Hallie. Again, you can see more of the flags here in the distance. Police here also a heavy presence. They are making sure everything here stays orderly, and for the most part, I can say that it has been. And you're seeing some leadership here from Miami and some other council members also arriving here to take part in this celebration. Again, just eclectic. The energy here is only increasing as the hours go by.
And George, I know that you had a chance to talk with some of these folks. You've relayed some of those conversations. When you talk about having been in this location previously, and obviously we've been covering the escalating tensions in Venezuela for months now, give us a sense of how different this moment feels than the others you've been there for.
Yes, I'm just going to step a little bit closer to get away from some of the noise, but the energy is completely different, Hallie. I mean, I got to tell you, we have talked to mothers, to fathers here, asking them to give us a sense of what they were thinking as they saw some of those boat strikes. Some of them saying, we've seen some of these playbooks, we've seen some of this play out before, but truthfully, we don't know if we can trust that this is really going to lead to a regime change. They were waiting, holding their breath, a lot of cautious optimism, a lot of them excited when the opposition leader was in Oslo receiving her Nobel Peace Prize. Many saying they wanted Corina Machado, to be back in Venezuela. They were hoping that this was all just sort of setting the stage, if you will, for something much larger. And again, now that I'm talking to some of these same people and hearing from some of these voices, many of them not afraid to show their faces, many of them eager to restore their businesses and open their doors and just welcome a change in regime, a change in leadership, many excited for what's next. Some of them telling me they're thinking about their plans to return home to see family they haven't seen in years. Some of them still saying not quite yet, that there's still that cautious optimism, as I mentioned. But again, Hallie, as you hear the sounds here, the echoes of this crowd, there's definitely a sense that, again, the excitement here, again, it's just going to carry on into the night here.
A lot of enthusiasm, a lot of activity there in Doral. George Solis, thank you very much for being out there. I know you'll remain out there through the better part of the afternoon as we get more.
We thank you. And see, I'm sorry, but this is just absolutely wild still. Just a wild time to see something like this actually happen. And, I did mention for you that I want to show you exactly what Prime Minister Mark Carney put up, because we heard from leader of the opposition, Pierre Poilievre, earlier on in the show. He said, congratulations to President Trump and for getting this criminal off the street, pretty much. That's exactly what he said. So, paraphrasing, obviously. I can actually show both of you, or actually I could actually show both of the responses to all of you. I was just going to show you Prime Minister Mark Carney, but I can show you Pierre Poilievre's as well. So you know what? Let me do that. Stop the screen share, and I'm going to share my screen with you again. All right, let's make this bigger here. Can you guys zoom in and see this pretty much? All right, let me read. I'm sure you guys have already started reading this, but one of the first actions taken by Canada's new government in March 2025 was to impose additional sanctions on Nicolás Maduro's brutally oppressive and criminal regime, unequivocally condemning his grave breaches of international peace and security, gross and systematic human rights violations, and corruption. Canada has not recognized the illegitimate regime of Maduro since it stole the 2018 election. The Canadian government therefore welcomes the opportunity for freedom, democracy, peace, and prosperity for the Venezuelan people. Canada has long supported a peaceful, negotiated, and Venezuelan-led transition process that respects the democratic will of the Venezuelan people. In keeping with our long-standing commitment to uphold the rule of law, sovereignty, and human rights, Canada calls on all parties to respect international law. We stand by the Venezuelan people's sovereign right to decide and build their own future in a peaceful and democratic society. Canada attaches great importance to resolution of crisis through multilateral engagement and is in close contact with international partners about ongoing developments. We are first and foremost ready to assist Canadians through our consular officials and our embassy in Colombia, and will continue to support Venezuelan refugees. Let's go to Pierre Poilievre, whose was a bit shorter. Or is it? Here it is. Okay. It says, congratulations to President Trump on successfully arresting narco-terrorist and socialist dictator Nicolás Maduro, who should live out his days in prison. The legitimate winner of the most recent Venezuelan elections, Edmundo Gonzalez, should take office along with the courageous hero and voice of the Venezuelan people, Mario Machado, who you heard about before, down with socialism, long live freedom. And so pretty much essentially what I'm trying to say here is these guys pretty much said the same thing. Now, they said it differently. But they pretty much said the same thing. What happened was a good thing, and now the people of Venezuela can move forward and hopefully kind of form their own destiny with a new government. Now, Is that saying that Prime Minister Mark Carney agrees with what President Trump did? I'm going to assume so. It was a bit of a word salad, but essentially that is what it said. And Pierre Poilievre agreed with it as well, clearly. Now, I've heard a lot about Alberta and independence. And the main thing that Alberta has in regards to leverage and those dollars, if it became an independent state, would be oil. But if the U.S. is going to take control and invest billions of dollars to the infrastructure of oil in Venezuela and to get it pumped out of the ground, because right now I believe it's only 30% that they're pumping out of the ground of what they actually could do. And don't listen to me, go do some more research. I did some research on this earlier. But they are going to invest money and get that oil flying out of the ground. And they are going to use it to benefit themselves. And I'm also assuming the people of Venezuela. But if the U.S. can now go to Venezuela to get that crude oil, doesn't that matter for Alberta and Canada if 93 to 90% of the 97% of the crude oil export from Alberta goes to the U.S.? Doesn't that lose some leveraging power from Canada to the U.S.? Correct me if I'm wrong. That's just the way that I'm thinking. You can let me know. And first of all, when I'm talking about this, I'm not coming at you guys telling you guys what to think. I'm reading things to you, sharing opinions. I'm not here to be right or wrong about anything. I'm giving out some information. But you guys can let me know in the comments, what are your thoughts about this? What are your thoughts about this? Was this a good thing that it happened? Is it a bad thing that it happened? People are saying, well, they didn't go through the courts to do it. Completely understand that argument as well. But if you went through the courts to do this, how would it get done? Wouldn't that information leak? You can't pull off an operation like this with information leaking. But you guys let me know in the comments what you think about all of this going on. Things are going to be happening with the economy. I would be watching what is going on with oil prices, what they're going to be talking about in Alberta, what's going to be talked about in the Canadian government. This stuff is going to affect Canada as well. And so I'm interested what is going to be coming out of this. At Microach7 on IG, at Microach X, at Microach23 on X. Make sure you follow, like, subscribe, and share the show. Guys, get in the comments. Let me know what your opinion is on this. Is it good? Is it bad? I don't really know what to think at this point. I've never really seen something like this happen this close. But this is unprecedented stuff for me to see this close, and all of us, because I don't know about you. I wasn't expecting this to happen. Maybe some of you guys were. I don't know. But let me know in the comments. Until the next episode, thank you all for your love and support. This is the Mike Roach Show, and I will be back again soon.